Did that look okay?
Yeah, your slides, yep.
Is there, is there a way to, I never can see any option to see the whole meeting. Whenever I'm sharing my screen, it's always just.
Yeah, the best thing I found to do with Google Slides is I do the presenter view. So I go into the present and I do a presenter view, and then I just get rid of that presenter view thing, and then it makes so I'm not presenting as full screen.
Yeah.
You can also, yeah. So you're not sharing your full screen, and then I just pull. I have a huge monitor though, so that makes a difference, and I can pull the chat and the participants windows off to the side. Were we starting at 110? I think that was right.
Yes.
All right. All right. Welcome back, everybody. I am bummed I had to leave that lunch session and go teach a class, but now I'm back. I had to teach a class about story maps, so that was more, but I'm back. So I'm looking forward to hearing how all the videos went. But now we are excited to have Sara Damon with us, who is going to talk about an activity, a GIS activity you have done with students, right, Sara?
Yes, thank you. And welcome back, everyone, or welcome for the first time to the 2020 version of the GIS Educator Day. So what I'm going to share today is an activity that I've used for several years with 9th graders in AP Human Geography. And it's something that we do very early in the school year, maybe second week of school, for the purpose of both getting them started using ArcGIS online, getting them started thinking like a geographer. So the 3 W's are something that I always circle back around to when teaching AP Human Geography or Global Studies or whatever it is I'm teaching. And the 3 W's are, where is it? Why is it there? And what difference does it make? So no matter what the topic is, those 3 W's questions keep you focused on that spatial thinking. So let me get this going here. Get the glasses on. Oops. All right, I'm sorry, I've got a little bit of a glare. I'm sitting at my dining room table and it's not allowing me to see everything clearly, but here we go. So my plan today was just to kind of walk you through an introduction to the lesson, share the lesson with you so that you can actually do it yourself. So quite a bit of hands-on time. Then to have people share what they came up with in the chat so that we can see each other's work. And then to come back together at the end, and I'll share with you a few common challenges that my students have had, just kind of troubleshoot in that way, and then take any additional questions that people have. So first of all, the focus of this lesson is on the concept of activity space. And in geography, in AP Human Geography or Global Studies, which I taught, activity space is a term that comes up in the introductory unit. So this activity is geared towards not only helping students get started with ArcGIS Online, but also helping them understand the concept of an activity space. So the title of the session is Where's Your Stomping Ground? So your activity space is essentially your stomping ground, the place where you hang out, your circle of travel, And everyone has a slightly different circle of travel. So the formal definition, local areas within which people move or travel in the course of their daily activities. So this is not going to be a map of the cabin that you visited once on vacation last year, or where the grandparents live that maybe you see every once in a while. It's going to be a map of the areas in which the students hang out. I have had a few students over the years who raise concerns about putting their home on their activity space map. And there's no requirement that they include their home. And also, in some cases, students are really nervous about even letting me know, kind of where they hang out. And I assure them that, they don't have to include any locations that they don't feel comfortable including. So 2 goals really for the lesson, understanding that concept of an activity space and also just learning how to create a very basic map with ArcGIS Online. These are some of the skills that students will be introduced to. They'll learn how to search for stuff on the map, zoom around, pan, and then add some points and lines and areas, some descriptions, adding symbols to a map, and also adding images or pictures to their map. I start by showing students a sample map, and this is my activity space. And this is actually just a screenshot. It's not a live map. But you should be able to see how there are some points like the school. There are some lines like the bridge across the St. Croix River. And there are some areas like the large polygon illustrating my activity space. Also, if the map were live and we were to click on each item, a text box would come up, and I'll show you that in a minute after I leave the presentation. And in each text box would be a description. And also in those text boxes, you can add links and you can add images. Now, once each student has made their activity space map and they've shared it with me, or in some cases shared it with others in the class, you can encourage them to think about their activity space. Where is it? How large is their activity space? Some students will have a very small, and some students will have a very large activity space. I've had some students that travel quite a long distance to play on sports teams or to go to lessons, and their activity space covers the whole Twin Cities metropolitan area. And then I've had others whose activity space is just really tiny. They don't really go, too far outside of a few block area on a regular basis. Why is it there would be the second of those 3 W's. So why is their activity space where it is or how large it is? In some cases, it reflects what's happening in their personal life. If their parents are divorced and they go back and forth between 2 different households, sometimes that makes for a rather interesting activity space. As I mentioned, their hobbies and things that they like to do outside of school. And then what difference does it make? How much time do they spend in the car, for example? Is their activity space pretty walkable? All those are different things that you can talk about with students. How is your activity space similar to and different from others? I happen to live in Wisconsin, and I taught in Minnesota. So my activity space spanned, the distance between 2 different states on a regular basis every day. There aren't that many people that cross a state boundary to go to work and then to go home every day. So that makes my activity space maybe a little different from others. Okay. In the spring of 2019, I was fortunate to be a Fulbright teacher in Botswana, which is in southern Africa, just north of the country of South Africa. And so while I was there, one of the things that I did was help share some resources with other social studies teachers. And so while I was there, I modified this lesson and helped some teachers in Botswana learn how to make activity space maps and introduce this to their students as well. So my activity space in Botswana was, of course, quite different from my activity space here in the States. So just another sample, and I'll share that link with you as well. For today, I took all of my resources, which would include the sample maps, the step-by-step instructions for the lesson, and some other additional resources as well, and put them on a site that's called a Wakelet. And if you haven't ever used Wakelet before, I really like it a lot. It's a quick and easy free resource that you can use to consolidate several resources that you want to share with others or that you want your students to use. So I'll provide you with the link to that. And then what we'll be doing is going out to that link and then scrolling down through the Wakelet to explore the sample maps, and then also to find the step-by-step instructions that you can use to get started making an activity space map. Well, we're going to have some work time, and while you're working, feel free to post any questions that you have in the chat, and I'll try to help you with those. And then we'll come back together at the end. I want to share with you some common problems that my students have had with this map, and then also give you an opportunity for any additional questions. So here's the plan, and here is the link that will take you out to that Wakelet site. I'm going to leave this up for another minute or so, and then I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm just going to post that link in the chat.
I think I did post it, Sarah. So
okay, so we're now in the number 2 hands-on time.
Sarah, I did offer if anyone wants a walkthrough of how to get started to let us know, and we can do a demo of how to walk through. Everyone doing okay? Let us know if you have any questions.
It's awfully quiet.
I know. This is really hard because we used to walk around and help everybody, and it's
Yeah. Okay, Megan, glad
thanks,
to hear
Megan.
it.
Just makes me realize how small my activity space has gotten in the last 6 months.
Yeah, that might be interesting to compare your pre and
Oh
pre-COVID,
yeah,
your pre-COVID versus your COVID activity space.
yeah. Megan, are you finding some fun symbols?
Hey,
There's
Sarah.
so many different symbols to choose from.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead, Todd.
I jumped into yours a little late. I was in the other one for a little bit and then realized I wanted to do this one instead. You're on the 10, mapping the 10 things. I kind of have a clue as to what I'm doing. Am I just like putting 10 push pins in and then playing around with the different, the people and places and the images, and then I'm going to end up tracing that route?
You're gonna not trace the route. I mean, there is a route included, but the final step then is to add a polygon that encompasses your activity space.
Cool. And it's just the 10 places I visit the most in the last 6 months.
Yeah, you can define it in the way that works best for you, but generally speaking, an activity space. Let me just shoot back here. Activity space, as we define it in human geography, would be kind of your typical circle of travel. So where are the places that you go on a regular basis?
Perfect. I can handle that. And then do we, should we try to do this as a layered approach or try to keep it all on one map?
Mhm. What I would suggest that you do is take a peek at the instructions. What I have students do is to add each item as a separate map note so that they can create a description for each location. They can symbolize each location.
Perfect. That's what I'm doing. So
Okay.
just thought I'd check in, and you guys sounded kind of bored. So thank you.
Never bored. So once you're getting to the point of having several items on your map, make sure you've saved it. And once again, that would be just clicking save here at the top of the map. And then share. You will need to click this box so that your map is public. And then you can copy this link and paste it into the chat. And then we'll have those people that are getting a little stir crazy at this point, or who feel like they already have the hang of things, can start exploring each other's maps. Ah, I see Megan has added hers. Great. Nice. Okay, I think we have about 12 minutes left in the session. So what I'm going to do as people continue to work on their maps is I'm just going to show you a few examples of trouble spots that my students often have. And I'm noticing in some of the sample maps that the teachers are posting the links to here that some of you have also encountered a few of these challenges. Okay, so the first thing that students struggle with is in adding each location as a separate map note. And the reason why that's important is because we want to have a separate description and a separate symbol for each location. And so I'm noticing in this map, for example, that everything is buried in one map note. So when I turn the layer on and off, everything goes away or everything comes on at the same time. What we want to do is we want to add each item as a separate map note so that we can see each item in the table of contents. I can turn everything on and off, and everything has its own description, and if we so choose, its own image, and or we can also add links in these text boxes that take us out to websites with more information. So you want to make sure every single time that you zoom to a different location, you go add map notes, and add a separate map note for each item. And you're naming it there so that you're keeping all of the different locations straight. The other problem, number 2, that happens quite often is students forget to save their map. And so it will not auto-save. They do have to save. The other thing that students sometimes do is that they select Save As instead of Save. And so when they do that, they're actually creating a copy of the original map. So I've had students that just every single time keep selecting Save As, and then they end up having, 10 different copies, slightly different copies of the map sitting in their contents. You can just save right over the top of the first one, and you just do that by just continuing to select Save rather than Save As. Save As would be for if you truly do want to make a copy, because maybe you want to, have a second map that truly is different from the first map. Incidentally, where do students find the maps that they've created? It's over here under ArcGIS. Go to the bottom and select Content, and then you'll get to a catalog of all the different maps that you've made. Thirdly, students do struggle in particular with adding lines and then adding images and adding the polygon feature. So the line, for example, here is the hiking trail and also the St. Croix River crossing. Okay, so when they're adding a line, let's just call it hiking trail. And I'm just gonna kind of, let's see. Well, I'm just gonna make a line. Anywhere I click, oops, I have to choose the line. I click to start drawing. I double click to finish drawing. And then I could name it and do everything else that we've done before, like so. Let's say I put my line in the wrong place, or I just don't like the line. Notice here how it has all these little squares. That means it's selected, and I can simply delete it if I need to start over. So just making the line correctly is sometimes a struggle for students. Same with adding the polygon. And so once again, add map notes. But instead of choosing the stick pin or the line, you're going to choose an area. I usually choose the rectangle for the activity space, but there's no reason why you can't choose one of the other options. And then once again, once you click and drag the polygon, you'll get the window that allows you to symbolize it, to change the transparency so that's a little bit see-through, and all the things that make for a nice activity space polygon. Proofreading, always a big one. It's, I think, important to emphasize to students that the locations on their map, many of which have formal place names. And so place names are always capitalized, but also it just makes for a nicer looking map if they're capitalizing words that typically would be capitalized. And of course, spelling them correctly. So if you need to I'm going to actually get rid of this one because that was that sample layer. But if they need to fix spelling, just click on the item in the table of contents and then select rename, and then they can fix the spelling up or the capitalization or whatever the case may be. And then finally, actually centering and zooming before the one final save and before submitting it in whichever way that you want them to submit it. So that when a person opens the activity space map for the first time, it's zoomed to an appropriate level. You know, I wouldn't want someone to first come to my map with it looking like this. That just wouldn't be a very attractive looking map. You know, nor would I want them to be zoomed out so far that they can't really see much. So encourage students to zoom in and to center and to make everything look nice and pretty before they do the final save. And then before they share in whichever way you would like them to share. If you're working in an org and they don't necessarily have to share the link with you because they're in your org and you can access it that way, that's fine. If they don't click this box, only they will be able to see the map as the owner, and no one else will be able to see it. It doesn't mean that it's going to be broadcast over the internet and the whole world is all of a sudden going to take a look at their particular map. No one's going to know that link. So they don't have to worry too much about that either if they're working in like a public account or something. All right, so those are typical kind of roadblocks that students have with this project. And I know, at least with my students, that sometimes getting them to go back and proofread and really make their map ready for public consumption is a little bit of a struggle. They sometimes, want to just kind of rush through and say, okay, I'm done. I made the map. I've got everything on the checklist. But a map is a communication device, and the more professional in appearance it is, the more likely, someone is going to be interested in looking at it and using it. So those are all important parts of map making as well. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen and just open it up to any questions that people might have.
I'm just going to jump in and tell Todd that there is no mess when you're learning, and it's all experimenting, and that's how we figure it out. But Todd, I can't open your map, and I wonder if we could troubleshoot why that might be. I think some of the steps that Sara mentioned would be making sure that the map is shared to the public.
I didn't share it to public. I went to the members of the educator day.
There you go. And I'm not logged into that. So that would be why I can't see it. Thank you.
So if I click public, will it? Did that change it?
Yes, it does. Exactly. Gas stations. Thank you.
Yep.
That's a good gut to share it in school. It's a good idea to share it. You can share it with your org because people will be logged in.
Yeah.
What kind of a time frame would this take if I sent this to my IT department and said, hey, we need to get this all put in and every kid needs access to it for us to start playing with? And I'm thinking of trying to do something with this before the end of the quarter. Is it quick and easy? Can kids access it the way it is, or do we need usernames and passwords and all that jazz?
Well, it doesn't take long, but I think it just depends on how quick your tech people are to take the actions that they need to take to set up the org. I must admit that I have had students do this I have students in some cases just create the free public accounts, but this was before we had an org. So I don't think there's any huge problem, with that. But I think in 2020, you're going to want to have an org and you're going to want to have your tech person set it up.
So what I would recommend is reaching out, if Kylie is here, or reach out to the Esri folks and reach out to your tech people and have them connect with the Esri folks. Getting the org set up is very fast. What we strongly recommend is working with, are you a Google school by any chance? Do you have Google Gmail?
Yep.
The best thing to do, and if you like, the University of Minnesota is now trying to help schools with this, is to have your district set up single sign-on so that you don't have to set up usernames, you don't have to set up accounts. Students can just log in with that Google account. It's a game changer, and if your district is resistant to it, again, I don't know if Kylie's here, but we can work. There's people at Esri and people to you that can help you get that set up, because it makes all the difference in the world if you can get that single sign-on.
Cool.
Yeah, and it's a very fast process. I think when we did ours, it was, I don't know, a couple hours. I reached out to my tech person and a couple hours later it was all done. So I don't really think it even took him 2 hours. I think that was just when he finally got back to me. So it was a very quick process.
The tech part is easy. It's the people part and convincing them to do it that can be more difficult.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Kyle.
Thank you.
I am going to just, hey, Kyle, it is 2 o'clock. So I want everybody to take a quick break. This is really important. We're on here. And take a quick break, walk away until our next session starts at 2:10. But thank you, Sara. I'm sure Sara will take any other questions. And thank you, Sara. That was fun to do.
Yeah, and the Wakelet site that we use today, that's there, in perpetuity. So if you just bookmark that, then you can always go back and you'll have the instructions, you'll have the presentation slides, you'll have the 2 sample maps from today. And then I also added some other additional resources there, just in case some people really quickly breezed through the activity and needed some other stuff to look at. So
I think we're going to make a page. Oh, sorry, Sara, go ahead.
Yeah, keep that handy and you'll have everything you need.
We are going to make a page on that same website where you're going for the schedule today. We're going to make a page, I think, with all the links on there from today. So,
okay.
All right. Everybody go take a break. Go walk around.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Sara.